Imagine. Imagine you're asleep in a house near a river. The river is the Ganges. It's a warm July night, and it begins to rain. Drizzle at first, and then heavier and heavier. And then there's thunder and lightning. And suddenly you wake up. You hear the sound of people running outside your house. And you just step out to see your neighbors running helter-skelter. Some have got kids in their arms. Some have picked up everything that they could gather. One man has a television on his head, and they're all running. You run too. You run and run until you're soaked to the skin, and then you stop. The next morning reveals this. The Ganges has taken half your neighborhood, again, for the 17th time. And this time, the Ganges is at your doorstep. Why? Why would a river gulp kilometers of paddy fields and turn it into this? Why? Why would a river chew through its own bank and push the people that live on it so far inland until they have nowhere to go? We're landlords to bed and beggars to rise, they say. They have been internally displaced several times over. It used to not be like this. Rivers do meander. In their floodplains, all rivers meander, and there's some amount of erosion that all of these people know to live with. But something changed. Something changed 4 decades ago. What changed? India built a barrage at a place called Farakka. Why? Ostensibly, to flush the port of Calcutta, which was downstream, of the silt that was building up. Now, what the engineers did not calculate was two things. One, that this is a tidal delta. Calcutta sits on a tidal delta. The tide comes in with 78 times the amount of water any Farakka barrage can push out. So, of course, the silt was going nowhere. And secondly, we are talking about the siltiest river on earth, the Ganges. You don't just build a dam and forget about it, because the silt will build up behind the dam, and it did. It built up to such an extent that it raised the riverbed, and the river had nowhere to go, and it was finding places to go. Its right bank was rocky. It found no purchase there. So it swung to the left. And what was there? Mango orchards, paddy fields, houses, homesteads, markets, hospitals, all built on soft soil. And of course, it just chewed its way through, scarfing its way down, leaving hundreds of thousands of people homeless over the years. Oftentimes, it's not the river that devastates, but what we do to it that does. And these people now, shorn of their traditional livelihood, shorn of their identity, shorn of any agency, have to migrate to already stuffed cities looking for daily wage work, which then exposes them to the vagaries of market forces. And those that are left behind, they are left to eke out a living out of nothing in desperately devastated landscapes. With no income and no livelihood, what do? They marry off their children early, so there's child marriage, which is rampant. And every child above the age of 6 is forced into labor, child labor. Malnourishment is on the rise. Infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate are off the charts in these places. But here's the rub. What that barrage did was not limited to the area that it was built around. Let's zoom out and take a 30,000-foot view of the lower basin of the Ganges. South of the barrage is the Sundarbans, the largest unbroken stand of mangroves in the world, a richly biodiverse region, which depends on a delicate balance of sweet water and salt water for its survival. And what does the barrage do? It holds back sweet water, it diverts it. With less fresh water coming downstream, brine takes over, and it's creating havoc. Salinity is almost destroying the Sundarbans. And silt. What happens when you hold back silt in an active delta? The delta is built with silt. It requires that silt to fortify itself against rising sea levels and increasing storm surges that are coming. You hold back silt and you undermine the resilience of this delta. And you threaten millions of people that live on it. And then there's the fish. There used to be, there still is, an anadromous fish that swims upstream to spawn, but it can't reach its spawn grounds anymore. And the fisheries have collapsed. Lucrative fisheries have collapsed and plunged fishermen deep into debt. This is the most populated river basin in the world, and generation after generation of children are growing up sans any education, any hospitals, no healthcare, no prospects, no livelihood. This is India's vaunted demographic dividend. As chroniclers, we have an immense responsibility and indeed an opportunity to understand the land and to smash those silos of narrow departmental thinking that actually led to something like a Farakka, which should never be repeated. Stories have the power. They have the power to illuminate interconnected dependencies in a biogeographic region that goes beyond political boundaries. And they can push for policies that may never, ever compromise the resilience of a land and its denizens, both human and non-human, no matter what nature throws at them. Thank you.